Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. The civil rape trial of Donald Trump is expected to conclude today with closing arguments before the jury gets the case, but not before video deposition was played in court of Trump doubling down on his Access Hollywood tape with Billy Bush. The infamous grab them by their private parts. You remember that? Well, Trump reiterated by saying that it's been largely true that celebrities can grab women by the genitals. Wow. President Joe Biden will, meanwhile, deliver the commencement address at Howard University's graduation this coming Saturday. We're going to discuss that and the significance of the sitting president visiting an HBCU to deliver the graduation speech. We'll also look at another mass shooting in the United States, this time in Allen, Texas, where 9 people were killed by a now suspected white supremacist, or at least someone who is an ally of white supremacists. Also, we've all probably by now heard of the Negro baseball leagues, and many of us may know about the Negro League Museum. Well, certainly a long-time broadcaster in Major League Baseball knows this, right? Well, the Oakland A's have suspended their play-by-play guy for referring to it on air as the Nigger League Museum. Very blatant. And it's the 35th anniversary release of not only what I believe is the best music album ever put together by a solo artist, but the creme de la creme of concert films. And if you said Prince's Sign of the Times, you're absolutely right. Let's go crazy with Prince this morning with Cheryl Smith of the Texas Metro News and iMessenger Media. Good morning, Cheryl. Oh, are you there?
That was a good one, but your theme music just puts me in a mood of Curtis Mayfield.
Curtis Mayfield, how about that?
and I just love it, just grooving with your theme music.
That's all great. She probably sits back, sips on something, relaxes. You know how great, right? Before she calls you.
And I know I challenge her, and it's all in love. It's all in love.
Greer says it's true. Cheryl is by the way, not only the publisher of the Texas Metro News, iMessenger Media, that whole franchise, Garland Journal. She's also the NMPA's national treasurer, right?
Yes, I am.
So she got a lot of responsibility.
The money, the budget, everything. We're
Right.
doing good, but we could do better. We could always do better. And we could do a lot more with a lot more.
I like that. So let's see what we can do about getting a lot more.
Yes.
This morning we start in New York. Cheryl, the civil rape trial of Donald Trump is expected to conclude today, but the jury heard some video deposition played in court with Trump going all in again on women and doubling down. Let's take a listen.
And she used to be great. She's still very beautiful. I moved on her, actually. She was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try. She was married.
Huge news there.
No, Nancy.
Yeah.
No, this was, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her but I couldn't get there, and she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hot as shit in the purple.
Whoa!
Yes!
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald has scored.
Whoa!
Oh, my man! Wait, you got to look at me when you get out of your
sets this up.
That is very.
That's you in that video, correct?
Yes.
And am I correct that that video was recorded in January, withdrawn? Am I correct that that video was recorded in September 2005?
I guess that would, I don't know the date, but whatever date it was is fine with me.
And am I correct that you were engaged to your current wife sometime in 2004?
I don't know.
Am I correct that you married your current wife in January 2005?
I don't know relative to that tape, no.
And the person you were speaking to, it's now famous in that video, was Billy Bush?
That's right.
Please
This is very old news, fully litigated during debates, during everything else, fully litigated.
Okay.
And you know what I said then, and I say it now? Locker room talk. That was locker room talk.
Okay.
That's what goes on.
And you did say in the video that you, quote, moved on her heavily, correct?
Excuse me?
You do say in the video that you, quote, moved on her heavily.
I did say that, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And you do say in the video that as part of trying to have sex with this woman, you took her furniture shopping, correct?
We actually did look for furniture, yes.
It's Cheryl. So the jury gets this case. I mean, that was just a bit of stuff that they heard. In fact, over the weekend, the judge, Trump had indicated at the last minute that he was considering testifying in this case. And the judge extended it to Sunday, gave him a deadline of yesterday at 5 p.m. to decide if he was going to testify. Obviously, that came to pass. So the jury will get the case this morning. But I mean, he reiterated that he says it's been largely true that celebrities can grab women by the genitals. In this case, you know, he claimed that he couldn't get E. Jean Carroll, the person who is suing him. He got her mixed up with his ex-wife Marla Maples. He couldn't distinguish who was who. What does this man think? It's a civil rape trial. And I saw your expression.
Yeah, well, and I will tell you this, that first off, hearing the reports initially, it took me back to the Bill Cosby cases, because there were people that I talked to that talked about the culture of Hollywood back then. And a lot of people looked at what was going on with Bill Cosby as the Bill Cosby today versus the Bill Cosby, you know, over 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And here you have Donald Trump. I mean, it's ludicrous to think that he hasn't learned anything from, like he says, it's been litigated and it's been talked about in debates, and he's been over it again and again. And what you see is narcissistic behavior. You see arrogance. You see, you know, if the jury sees this, I just can't see them walking away and letting
The jury
him,
did see this. So.
and that should seal it for him. And I wonder if he sees it, but he doesn't care.
No, and there was a lot of talk in legal circles. I know I got a lot of emails from different lawyers about this case that's been going on in New York. Even the attorney for Trump, Joe Tacopina, highly criticized for his line of questioning of the alleged victim, including prodding her as to why she didn't scream when he was allegedly raping her. And that question seemed to be so taboo. Well, how do you ask? And people believe that it was Donald Trump who got his attorney to ask that question.
I can see that they're going to do what he wants, but it shows a certain tone deafness, and but that's what's rampant going on. And I'll talk about that when you talk about your next story of the shooter. But this is something, you know, and we are looking at, people still don't care. If they support Donald Trump, they don't care. That's the travesty of it all. And they will still go out and vote for him. And you know who's going to be first in line? White women.
Well, that was proven true in the last two elections that involving Donald Trump, Cheryl. So you can't dispute you there on that. Austin Cooper says that Donald J. Trump has no redeeming qualities, none. He's the devil incarnate, or perhaps he's actually the devil. Austin he's had his Wheaties this morning.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Why couldn't he say that on camera?
Austin, Cheryl says next time you're on camera, she expects to hear that from you. It won't
Yeah.
be long before we see Austin on camera again.
And he could have joined us this morning with that line. I hear his voice saying it and channeling it. But it's what we're in a sad state in this country. We really are. And this past weekend, and I'm here. I don't care where it happens. People eyes are on us,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people are judging us by, they don't have to get the false reports or anything or the negative depictions of us. They can just watch the news.
Yeah, it is sad. You talk about Donald Trump, but you look at the other declared candidates, including the incumbent, President Biden. President Biden is 80 years old. He'll be 81 years old next year when the election is in full gear. So it just seems that politics have just really. I've always said, I've never been really involved in politics. I've covered politics. I cover it, but I never understood um, certain things. And now the way things are today, with the volatility, the vitriol, it's hard isn't it hard? Sure, let me ask the question and not state a thought or an opinion, but isn't it seems to be difficult for people to really get motivated about politics today?
And you see that with the voter turnout. Folks were shooting for a 12% voting uh, percentage in our races here in Texas. And you have people, when you look at voter reform, which we need, and when you look at the efforts that are being put in place to disenfranchise vote the electorate, people are saying, "What the heck?" And we don't need them to say, "What the heck?" We need them to vote. And I think, we were talking about Roy Wood Jr. earlier. He said something. He said, "Vote." Was
Well,
that?
he told them about the gun violence. We're going to get to that shortly, on what happened there near Dallas. But he said something about the kids in school, and they kind of hissed a little bit. And he said, "Well, don't groan." He said, "Pass legislation," because you had a lot of lawmakers in that room.
Yes, and they
And
need to see that. They need to hear that message. And for me, our I don't know if you ever saw the movie Head of State with um
yes, absolutely, Bernie Mac and
Bernie
Chris
Mackey.
Rock.
Right. And at times it kind of made a mockery of when you see the Democrats and the Republicans and they stand when their candidate says something good. I think they should mix them all in there together, because then we'll see who's big and bad. It's easy to stand up when you're with your own,
Hmm.
but when you have to stand up in the midst of, if I mix it all up in there and see what these people have to say. Now, you mentioned the age, and some people, I would have taken a Dick Gregory at 80 years old than a lot of 80-year-olds. That's a different 80-year-old, you
Yeah,
know. And
yeah.
we're coming up this week on, we have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan turning 90. And
Wow.
you look at those voices. And so, but there are sometimes, I've seen the president out and him speaking, and I've seen that look that the women know, the way Dr. Jill is looking at him. Like, and I think it appears that she's just trying to make sure that she's there. Kind of reminds me of the Reagans.
Nancy
When
and Ron, yeah.
when Nancy Reagan would be with Ronald Reagan. But there are jokes about it, and who's to say there's clearly something wrong with Trump?
Yeah,
And
well,
and yeah, and it may have to deal with him being that person who welcomes. I heard all of this. The internet can be really nasty, and they were really coming in hard on Carolyn Bryant Dunham last when she passed, and talking about where she was going, and you wonder if she's going to be there to meet Trump, you know. It's but this is what folks are looking at, and we want them to get involved. We want to get them engaged. We see what's happening in Tennessee. You see what's happening across the country. You see what's happening even with the exoneration. You could say the acquittal of the former Tallahassee mayor Andrew Gillum
Yeah, yeah.
and Sharon Letman. That if you talked about not being involved in politics, I can tell you in the state of Texas that the government is hell bent on catching Black elected officials.
Oh, I
And
could
a
only imagine.
Louisiana Black newspaper, I think it was Louisiana Tribune, back in the 90s, did an investigative report when they just said they provided all the cases of Black elected officials who were charged, who were indicted, who were uh, found guilty. And it's like crazy to think that they're doubling down on that one segment, but then you have our you have Dan Patrick here, who how many years have you been waiting to get into a courtroom? What happened to a speedy trial? People are
Yeah.
seeing this stuff.
Well, speaking of Joe Biden, he will deliver. He's confirmed to deliver the commencement address at the historically Black Howard University. Its 155th ceremony. Commencement activities will begin at 10 a.m. on Saturday, May 13th, on the upper quadrangle of the main campus. Erica Lowe, the White House's director of African American media, stated that in addition to Biden's address at Howard, administration officials plan to attend commencements at HBCUs nationwide. And according to the White House, Biden's visit to Howard, the alma mater of Vice President Kamala Harris, follows the administration's record-breaking investment of nearly $6 billion through the Department of Education to support HBCUs since 2021. This is a big deal at Howard University. The president of the United States is going to give the commencement address.
Yes, it's a good thing. And we have, Secretary Fudge at FAMU. And also, this past weekend, the Oprah Winfrey at Tennessee State University. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing in a number of ways. And hopefully that will energize some bases as well, because if it were not for Biden, Fudge would not be where she is sitting right now. She'd probably still be in Congress.
Mhm.
And as far as Oprah Winfrey coming, you know, HBCUs are doing well this day. Didn't stop Roy Wood Jr. from asking for more money from the
Well,
president.
why not? Why not?
Yes, because whatever we're getting, there's more where that came from, and
Mhm.
it's we have so many issues going on with our HBCUs, and so you know I'm looking for positive attention when we think at Howard University and we look at gentrification in that area and how people try to marginalize it. I'm happy for Howard that he's going to be there, and I hope he comes with a strong message that just doesn't resonate with alums, I mean, and with the class of 2023, but also just put some things out there to get people talking universally, you know,
Mhm.
worldly about some of the issues we need to be excited. I hope he comes with a message that will get that populace fired up and
Yeah.
take that fire to the polls.
I can only imagine that he will, that whoever the speech writers are for him understand the moment. And look, he's running. He's officially running for reelection. So, and he knows. Obviously, they all know that their biggest base is the Black vote. And
Do they know that? I mean, really, you
well,
say do
they
they act
know
like
it.
they know?
Right, there you go. There's a difference. They know, as the question is, do they act like they know? Um, you know, uh, President Obama, when he was first elected, it was that young movement, right? That got him, pushed him over the top. And so Biden is going to Howard University, and certainly, I'm sure his hope is to galvanize the young voters of color as well. But we will see, Cheryl. But you know what you just said is a topic that we've talked about often. Whether or not they appreciate and show that they know who puts them in office. It still remains to be seen. There's a lot that's hanging out there, right?
Yeah, he's gonna say something just like he mentioned the black press.
Well, that mentioning the black press at the White House Correspondents' Dinner was really interesting because it was just so natural. It was better because it was natural. It
Right.
wasn't one of those things where it was just scripted, and where I should say this. You're in a room full of really white journalists and celebrities,
Yeah.
and you didn't have to go there. And so we are certainly appreciative that the administration, that the president recognizes the contributions, the mass contributions of the black press, and he did so at a forum like that was really special. So
That is what is so important when folks, I think that it was Malcolm who was coming up on his birthday that he said that he wished if he had a chance to revisit with that young lady in Boston. And then I would ask what could he do. He would talk about how, and I've heard a number of folks say it, that it's easy to say for Biden to come to Howard and talk about the importance of HBCUs, but throw in some of those nuggets when you go other places. Also, do it when the room is like the White House Correspondents' Dinner was.
yeah,
Do it there.
yeah.
And it was good to see you, Dr. Chavis. I saw the Grinders, and it was good to see
Yeah,
you
and
all.
I told you beforehand, I got a chance to talk to Brittany and Cheryl and mention how there was one newspaper in this country that on a regular and consistent basis kept Brittany out front when she was in Russia, and that was the Texas Metro News and Cheryl Smith, and they were very, very happy about that. They both told me that they were very familiar with the Texas Metro News, and they were thrilled and very gracious. Couldn't have been more gracious. At least in my opinion, they could not have been more gracious about it. So
Did you take a picture?
I did not take one of the things, I took some pictures with certain folks because they asked. One of the things that if folks know me, and this is in no way like a braggadocio moment or whatever, but I've been around so many celebrities during the course of my adulthood. Um, and they know, those celebrities know, and people who know me, I just autographs and pictures if we're not close like that, whatever. But like John Leguizamo, I posted a picture of him and he asked to take a picture. He asked based on the conversation. He's like, let's take a selfie. So I took it. So it's just not in me. And we had a nice conversation. I think if I was doing a news article on Brittany, I know I would have taken the picture then, but I wouldn't have been in the picture. So
Well, and I like to have people with me because I'd rather have the pictures of us interacting. Like one of my friends, we were at a show here, and Dennis Edwards walked over to me and just kissed me right on the lips.
oh gosh, don't look
And
any
she
further.
and she took and it was really nice and sweet. He was singing, and my friend took the picture of him walking away. and
Oh,
and so I do like the pictures, the more candid ones, but I was saying on the show last week that I had Mamie Till Mobley Bradley with me here for like 4 days, her and Mr. Bradley, and I have all of these pictures, but I don't have any. I don't ask to
yeah,
take them
it's
either.
just because I see how fans and others treat them, and it's just not in me to treat you more than to make you feel you're more special than me. So if that
Mhm.
makes any sense. Greer says I'm petty, but that's me.
That's what Greer says.
Yes, he says I'm
It's
petty
just, I'd rather if someone takes the picture of us because I like
and
the picture of
spoiled.
us interacting versus us posing for a picture because it says more. So
Right,
so
right. While you're in the midst of doing something, right? Talking to them or doing something, that's different. If somebody else takes the picture, But
Right, right.
I'm with you on that, Cheryl.
Well, thanks for that shout out to Brittany. I just think it's wonderful, for her and Sherelle, to be together. And I saw pictures of them at the Met Gala, and I just tell you, I just again this whole thing, everything, the whole climate in this country, and is so bad that you see the comments, and you still have people who want her behind bars. And I said, but some of these same people, when Pookie does something, they want Pookie free.
The thing with that is there's so many, and to her credit, to Brittany Griner's credit, um, she is still heavily advocating for the freedom of folks unjustly held in other countries. And the president mentioned that too at the dinner. He mentioned her and in that sense that she is still pushing for that. She knows she's fortunate to be home. She knows that she caught a break. The administration went not just for her; they went for Paul Whelan. They
Right.
wanted others involved. I think it's just disingenuous to say, well, if they couldn't bring them all, then don't bring one. That's ridiculous. That if they were able to get her home, they got her home. And the same thing with Paul Whelan. If they can get him home, you don't say it must be a package deal or he has to stay. You got to bring that man home, just like
Yeah.
the others. Russia is imprisoning so many innocent people anyway, innocent Americans, innocent Russians, innocent Europeans. They are imprisoning folks for their religious beliefs. Um, so the world court, has condemned Russia's actions and how they're going about things. So it's a very treacherous situation. And Brittany said, and she reiterated in my conversation with her, she's not going back overseas at all.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I can't blame her.
And she shouldn't have to. And that is the thing. We have to do a better job. But it does not help when people get on, and those who are on the other side anyway, who are in positions of power, when they can go and point to the internet and folks are, oh, she should still be there and she broke the law, sad to say, you know, color still matters so much.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, if she broke the law, did it deserve a 9-year stint in the worst prison condition in mankind's history? I mean, come on, it's like some of the worst conditions that work camp or whatever they call it over there. Um, eh, yeah, it's just what. Let's move on to Texas and Cheryl, authorities there, as you well know, they're investigating whether the shooting at the outlet mall there in Allen, Texas, was motivated by right wing extremism. One of the senior law enforcement officials has stated, while the investigation remains ongoing, authorities have not zeroed in on a specific motive, but they found a lot of white supremacist material in this man's car
Mm,
and other places that they have connected him to. This is Cheryl. You're there. What's
yeah.
what is the feeling coming out of there? What's the mood there? Um, where things stand.
Well, the mood, and you still have people who are going to go and they're going to live their life, but you have folks who are really concerned about the mental well being, not only of people. I talked with a board member of NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, last night, and the talk was about not wanting to go out. How can you be safe in a country that, and I think during the conversation, it was something was stated about, I mentioned Minister Farrakhan earlier, talking about if more areas were policed, if you will, by the FOI, or what is going to be done, or talking about. I mean, you can't have birthday parties, you can't have graduation parties, you can't go anywhere without worrying about some person out there. And I know that the media has said, they're slow to even put the person's name out, put their face, because they don't want, some people will see that as a badge of honor,
Yeah.
and they will get excited about it. But this is an affluent area. And then there are some school districts where they will not be in school today, where counselors are on heightened awareness. But guess what? The beginning of the school year saw a cut in high school counselors.
Mm-hmm.
So you have folks going through trauma, and how do we deal with the world that coming out of COVID-19? It would shine the light on the mental, not defects, but instability of our country.
Yeah, this guy, he wore a patch with RWDS, which is the acronym for Right Wing Death Squad. On social media, his social media pages includes neo-Nazi and white supremacist related posts and images that authorities believe he shared online. It's the 22nd mass killing
Yeah.
this year, in which that's 4 or more people have died or been shot, not including the assailant. 22, and this is May the 8th, and we have a long year ahead of us.
And you have people who don't want to go out, who are staying home. They stayed home because of COVID. So now it's making it easier for them to stay home. Folks are, you look at, well, our unemployment rate for Blacks is the lowest.
All-time low.
And, but then also you just think about the people who are retiring, the folks who don't want to go back to work. They're asking, can I work from home? Because they're shopping online and
Yep.
having stuff delivered, or get in their car and go and pick up. And you just, we the mental health and well-being of this country is something that we really should be concerned about.
And think about that. Staying home, shopping online, and things of that nature. That's also affecting what? It's affecting the economy. It's affecting jobs, because if you're
Yes.
not patronizing places, right? If you're doing your shopping online, that means the stores in the neighborhood are suffering.
Right.
So it's a trickle effect, a trickle down effect, triple up effect. I don't know how you say it, but it's an effect across the board.
Well, trickling down, if you consider, and Texas Democrats are asking, this is the 88th session, and they are asking for a reasonable waiting period to purchase a firearm, raise the age to 21 to purchase firearms in Texas, because it's showing, well, they're going back as far as like 97, where offenders were like 18, 19, and 20 ranked first, second, and third in the number of homicides committed. But there are a number of points that the Democratic Party is asking for, and there are going to be some, of course, there are going to be some press conferences today discussing,
Mhm.
what's going on. And I mentioned earlier about Trump being like tone deaf. There are some, I was talking to someone, and they said that they were getting ready to put out a statement, and they were thinking about saying something about, all this legislation and everything. And folks told them, no, your first statement out should not be political,
Right.
no matter how
Mm.
important it is. But it is a political issue, and we need everyone to understand that every issue is political. But the first, it shows a tone deafness if you get out. And the first comment is, that's why we need gun control. No, that's not. It should be for the victims, the first responders who acted, the people who work, and the workers who worked in and tried to help people to safety. And we're talking about people trying to help folks, and what happens when they go to help somebody and they turn them over.
Mhm.
And it's that stuff is traumatizing, and we can't let people go home and not think that they have any help at all. We have to do something about it. And so there are a number of House bills that, which if you talk to elected officials, state elected officials in Texas, they're going to talk. Well, they said this is the worst, a session. But guess what? They said that the last one.
You know, and I was gonna kind of try and figure out a way of putting this in there, but in Grierson, you got, as she aptly put it, a Marine lynching people on New York subways. Everything has just gone so out of control. It's I call it, and I know she said it too. It's a war that's going on.
Yeah.
It's quite, it's simple as that, because you got to, everywhere you look, you got the mass shootings, you got the stabbings. I think in Oklahoma, you got something going on. This choked the man to death, who really wasn't a threat to anybody.
Well, you had the migrant shelter shootings in Brownsville, Texas.
Yeah, exactly. And you got people, and I saw this over the weekend, which was astonishing. I hear and understand protesters, but jumping on the train tracks in New York is just not the wisest thing. I mean, they stopped trains over the weekend by jumping onto the train tracks to protest until this Marine is brought to justice. But there's the third rail, Cheryl. That third rail is live.
Yeah. Well, and desperate times call for desperate measures, but you have to be very strategic also. And
Look at that.
I mean, yeah, you think about that, and you just think about what's going through on all sides of
That light you see back there, that's a train, folks.
yeah, it is not daylight. It
It's
is
a
a
train.
train
It
coming.
literally
And,
is a train.
but then I just have to say something. We've been meeting with Korean leaders in Texas, and when I meet with them, I talk to them about how I go to their town hall meetings, and they're talking about all the complaints they have with police and safety and everything. And I said, if you close your eyes, you sound like Black folks. But guess what? Never do you come out when there's a shooting or something in the Black community or robberies. You need to come out. And that's what a posture that everyone needs to take. Don't wait until you're hit, until you're the dog that's hit, before then you want everyone to galvanize and be there and support you.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, you're having more violence with this is going on, but you're also having the Karens of the world. You're having this guy who felt that it was okay for him to tackle the little young, and if that had been a Black man that big over a little white girl trying to make a citizen's arrest. When we have instances like that happening, and we have students slapping teachers, and we
There's
just
one
have
incident over the weekend I also saw, Cheryl. Speaking of that, a student pepper sprayed her teacher because he took her phone. It's unreal. Power 96 says, face it, America is showing its true colors. Violence in America is as common as apple pie. Can't disagree.
cannot disagree
Can't
at all.
disagree.
And I'm just wondering, and what got me is I've had someone say to me that talking about this isn't a class thing, and to assume that the the children that may be fighting back with the teacher, to assume that rich affluent kids don't do things that their parents not approve of. This is not just happening with poor Black and brown children. We're seeing a lot of that elevated, and then a lot of issues are resolved differently when it's a white child, because some of these teachers aren't going to even think about even saying anything back to a someone who's giving millions of dollars to the school.
Well,
We just have a serious issue with how do we reform the schools? How do we get back to control? And I tried to think of it because I was teaching a class last week, and I asked my students, and of course they're college students, but I said, why won't y'all get on the phone in my class? Why don't y'all, why don't you do something like that with me? I just asked them, what is the difference? So how are we setting up school? But you have people come there, and what I see from a lot of the young people, the tapes that I will look at, something else is going on deeper with these young people.
Mhm. Yeah, and I tell you what else is going on, or what continues to go on is racism in America. The Oakland A's TV broadcaster Glenn Kuiper. Now he's been suspended after he uttered um, racial slur during the team's Friday evening broadcast. After a visit to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. Now, this guy, everyone knows the Negro Leagues. Everyone knows especially if you're in baseball. He's been the Oakland A's play-by-play guy for 17 years. Well, he gets on air. And it was so interesting. I don't know if we have that clip or at least the photo. It just looked from the beginning so weird. He was sitting with another guy who looked to be in some sort of fatigues.
Nigger League Museum, we had a phenomenal day today.
And I wish they showed the other guy too, but
We had a
you
phenomenal
see, I mean, that was just, and that's what he said. Nigger League Museum, broadcasting to tens of thousands. I say tens of thousands because I'm not going to say millions, because the two teams involved are two of the worst teams in baseball, so not that many people were watching. but um, but um, you see
Do
how
you
that
not
just
think that
rolled
was?
off, and he gave the thumbs up when he said it.
Yeah, I wish Greer could play that again. Do you think that was a fireable offense?
No question about it, because it was intentional. You cannot tell me that wasn't.
And his apology was weak.
Oh gosh, the apology. And I was going to get to that. He goes on to say, this is in the sixth inning of the game. He says, a little bit earlier in the show, I said something didn't come out quite the way I wanted it to. I just wanted to apologize if it sounded different than I meant it to be. I just want to apologize for that. The A's have suspended him pending investigation. What are you investigating? What are you investigating?
Exactly.
And he did,
Good
I
point.
mean, with the thumb and everything. It was, in other words, he was emphatic. Emphatic.
Narcissistic. It reminds me of Trump. He should be fired. And I'm surprised that we aren't hearing from Austin or Power 96. There's just some things, you know, those some things are not a slip of the tongue.
No, that's been how I view this. I've looked at it a few times. That is certainly not. Then, like you said, it's certainly not a slip of the tongue. But like you said, when you look at the apology to me says just as much as the offense itself. If it sounded different than I meant it to be, he said. If it sound
The most exciting
unreal,
he didn't actually mention this clear. He actually
unreal.
finally
Well, he shouldn't have been when they went, they should have gone to a break immediately. And when they came back, they should have had an intern or someone sitting
Someone
in
should have
there.
been
He
right.
shouldn't have even been back
Well,
on.
here's the thing too, and like I said, I wish we had there's the other guy.
Okay.
It looked like who that looked set up. It looked like it was set up to be. Come on, they couldn't put him on air by himself. The guy with the beard and whatever he's wearing.
Yeah.
What is
He
that he's
looked
wearing,
like,
Cheryl?
I would love to see his reaction when it was said.
Well, his eyes are closed, and his face is clenched, and
Oh my.
look,
And this is what we have to deal with day in
and
and
that's
day
what they
out.
call. This is exactly right. And when they talk about reparations, and people get it twisted, it's not just about the slave trade. It's the ongoing stuff. that happens and that's still happening today, right? All of the oppression, eh, the mass incarceration, things like this, right? The mental and emotional abuse of African Americans. That's what it's about.
We had a phenomenal day today. Nigger League Museum and Arthur Bryant's Barbecue.
And Arthur Bryant's Barbecue. I mean, we give him another minute, and the chicken and the watermelon would have came out too, right?
Oh my gosh. He shouldn't, he should have been, it should have been swift and,
Yeah.
Just matter of fact,
Yeah.
with the
And they should have
same.
done it on air. They should have done it right there. Somebody should have, the producer, somebody should have come on and said, he's fired. We're moving on. I mean,
And
something to
the
that.
thing about it is, it was at the right game. It was at the right game that it happened because I was, in Oakland, but let's go. I don't want to go East versus West Coast, but he picked the right place to do that, to not get the response that
Like I said,
that
Oakland
could have
A's and the
caused a
Kansas City
national
Royals,
incident.
it was like only a handful of people were watching. So it wasn't like the Dodgers and Yankees were playing.
Or
And
the
we
Yankees
know
and the Mets.
there you go.
Yeah,
And we know that speaking of the Dodgers, in the 80s, what was the the GM Al Campanis said that blacks lacked the necessities to be managers and third base coaches or whatever, and they tossed him out. It was a big deal because millions of people saw that.
but it's so acceptable, and there was no surprise on and when you talk about stereotypes, I'm not going to stereotype the look that you see there, but I'm sure that there will be plenty who will stereotype the look, and that couldn't have been you sitting next to him, and that would have come out.
Correct. And as obvious, it seems pretty obvious, I should say, that this man uses that word pretty often.
Yeah.
That's part of his everyday vernacular. Well, here's my favorite subject. Years, difficult, if not impossible to find. The concert film from 1987 and 1988. Sign of the Times, an exhilarating 84 minutes of Prince's unabated genius is now available. They've remastered it, and you can ask almost any critic, and they'll likely agree that Sign of the Times is Prince's best album, and in my estimation, probably the best album ever done. It's a 2-record set that never drags. It's Prince, any entertainer at their very best. This is Prince at his extreme best. This was, if you recall, this is post Purple Rain, when prior to this there was an album, there was a few other albums Prince put out, including Parade and Under the Cherry Moon, that did not garner a lot of post Purple Rain attention.
Right.
But this one you could not ignore.
Have you ever seen him in concert?
That's like asking a baby have they had milk. I mean, are you kidding me? How many times I saw Prince? I saw him way back then. The last time I saw Prince in concert, it was a date. My wife and I took her to see the Musicology tour in New York. It was just absolutely fantastic. But this Sign of the Times album, I mean, critics and everyone else agreed that it's like this. It's a true masterpiece. It's Prince's song in the key of life. I mean, it is without question. Like I said, I think it's the best ever. The 2 discs were packed with experiments, surprises, everything. Conscious, spare blues. It had the drum machine, funk, jazz, from Housequake to Slow Love to Play in the Sunshine. I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man. I mean, this guy just went there. He went there on this album, and now the digitally remastered Sign of the Times concert film, the best concert film you could ever hope to see. I remember taking a couple of friends show to see the Sign of the Times concert film when it came out, and I'll never forget Cheryl and Karen. And we went to it was the Sunrise movie theater in New York. We went, and they're thinking like, okay, this is like a Purple Rain type thing. It's gonna be acting and this, and they kept saying, when are they gonna stop singing and talk? I was like, y'all crazy. And my thing was, we paid like what, $10 for the movie ticket. I was like, wouldn't it be better? Don't you feel better that you paid $10 for a concert as opposed to $50 to go to a concert to see a movie?
Right. I went to one concert, and I guess one of the most valuable things, I had a really, really, really good time. And one thing that I learned, it was in the 80s, and I learned a lesson because I was actually dating somebody that time who was always late. Like if the concert started at 9, they got in the shower at 8:30. And so I learned a lesson to mess with the time when, so I wouldn't stress myself out so I could get where I wanted to. I just started fudging the time for concerts and events after that. And I start like padding it with an hour. Oh, well, it starts at 7:00, so that we could get there. But I had the time. It was really good.
Oh gosh, let me tell you something.
I don't know. I still like James Brown better, but
listen, I understand, but there was no other live performer. Michael was the king of pop for sure, but nobody wrecked that stage like Prince. My sister, Dr. Nicole, writes in that a million times for
yes.
Stacey LL. I took her as well. Her, my wife,
Yes.
her then husband at the time. We double dated. She was there
Oh, wow.
absolutely for the musicology concert, but this Sign of the Times was just absolutely phenomenal. Folks who saw Prince, this modern day Prince fan who saw him at the halftime show in 2007, that was like the appetizer for Sign of the Times. I mean, when you think about it, and if you think about it as a meal, that would have been the appetizer. And you know how great that Super Bowl performance was. Many say it's one of the best, if not the best, halftime show there was. But that would have just proven if you see the Sign of the Times concert film, you see Prince doing at his extreme best. I saw the Purple Rain concert a few years earlier, the Parade concert just about a year and a half before this concert, the Sign of the Times. Those were amazing concerts. Of course, Purple Rain was his breakout album and movie, but there was nothing like. Every track on that album tells a great story. And in Sign of the Times, the concert film, there's only one non-Sign of the Times song that's performed, and that's Little Red Corvette. And there was a reason why he performed Little Red Corvette at the time. It was a nice segue to his next jam, Housequake, and it just works so perfectly. Power 96 says, I saw Prince in Atlanta. Unfortunately, that was his last concert. It was worth the $250. I never paid $250, Power 96. Yeah, that was his last concert in Atlanta. Wow.
I know he invited NABJ to visit him when the convention was there. And for some reason, I didn't go to, it wasn't a concert. It wasn't going to be a concert or anything. It was just to his place. And they were telling people, leave your camera phone. Folks, I'm going to say everybody was honest, but there were people that were tempted to take their cameras And and I wonder, I hear you talking about the concert. It was a really, really good concert, and you've been to Michael Jackson's concert. I cannot compare Michael Jackson and Prince because the only concert I went to with Michael Jackson was when I was 10. And so,
Well, you
so
missed you listen, to be fair, you certainly missed if you didn't see Michael in concert, you missed one of the biggest treats in the history of music for sure. Um, but Prince, now Quinn, Mr. Durrett, who writes in, who now do you see coming close to a Prince performance? Maybe Rihanna. No one can come close to a
ooh,
Prince performance. I like Rihanna. I seen Rihanna in concert actually. It was various artists at the time back in Scranton. But it's impossible. I think about all the artists, and that includes,
well,
in a way, Cheryl, it includes Michael in a way only because of this. It's not to take anything. You can't take anything away from Michael, but Prince, well, during his concerts, you see it all. You see him play the drums. You see him play the guitar. You see him play different instruments, and you see him just nonstop moving.
okay.
And it's energy upon energy upon energy. Um, one critic
Mm.
wrote about the Sign of the Times film. It says all through the film you'll ask, how does he do it? Only and only be answered with more instances of him doing it.
Well, do you think that there will be some who will get to that point? Because you're talking about still young, like a
So
Chris Brown
I
or
was getting ready
Bruno
to say,
Mars.
so those who had, to me, who seem to have the ability, but for whatever reason has not totally exuded it, would be a Chris Brown, would be maybe an Usher. But Beyonce, of course, she brings all the energy and things of that nature, but
Mhm.
it just still falls short of, I'm on this instrument, I'm on that, I'm on top of the stage here, I'm down here with you here doing piano and a microphone and stuff like that. This guy was just, he was Jimi Hendrix, James Brown, all those guys mixed into one.
But someone who I saw play like 7 or 8 instruments at one concert, and I was really surprised by it, and then sing also, Miles J.
Okay.
And it was amazing. I was asking, what else is he gonna play next? Because he plays the violin, and that's really, that's really something. But then the piano, just different, played 7 or 8 instruments, and then has a voice. Of course, people say the voice reminds you of Teddy Pendergrass, who he produced, but you know, and that was one of my favorite concerts. Teddy Pendergrass,
Yeah.
when I was kind of young, didn't know didn't have a clue, but looking back, and just watching him, I say, "Well, now I get it."
Well, here's the thing. We're gonna have to close it out, but here's the thing. Obviously, I'm biased, but
Yes.
the thing about it is, I challenge anybody to tell me he was better than Prince or she was better than Prince. Can't happen. Sign of the Times. Check it out. If you haven't seen it, they remastered it, digitally remastered the Sign of the Times concert film. Check it out. Is worth the 84 minutes. Thank you so much for indulging us and watching Let It Be Known. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.